you can see that we do have a response, and we know that the sensor is producing a frequency. Now, to test it, to find out if we have any loose connections inside in the electronics portion, we'll use the screwdriver again to tap test.
Okay. And our reading stays pretty constant.
I'll go turn it off.
Now, the other thing that you want to look for when you're performing a tap test is when you have the engine running, you tap that mass airflow sensor and you listen for any RPM change in the engine. If you've got a sudden drop in RPM or a little blip in RPMs, that's telling you you've got a bad mass airflow.
Let's review how to test a mass airflow sensor that has been removed from the vehicle. Connect the mass airflow sensor tester to a 12-volt power supply. Connect the universal tester leads and the digital volt ohm meter leads to the sensor. Turn the meter on and set the scale to 4-cylinder tach or RPM. Observe and record the meter readings. Blow through the sensor and observe the difference in the meter reading. Next, tap on the sensor and observe any meter reading changes. If the mass airflow sensor passes these tests, locate and follow a diagnostic chart to pinpoint your specific problem. Now let's review the testing of a mass airflow sensor while it is still installed on the vehicle. Connect the digital volt ohm meter leads and the universal tester leads to the mass airflow sensor. Connect the universal tester power lead to a 12-volt power source. Observe and record the initial meter reading. Start the engine. Observe and compare the meter reading to the initial reading. Increase the engine RPM and watch for a change in the meter reading. Next, tap on the sensor and observe any meter changes or fluctuations in engine RPM.
To replace your mass airflow sensor, the tools you will need include a regular screwdriver, a 1/4-inch drive socket set, standard or metric wrenches, possibly some Torx bits, and the correct mass airflow sensor for your vehicle. The first step whenever working on the electrical system is to turn off all the accessories, including the ignition key. If you are working in the area of the electric fan, make sure to disconnect the wire leading to it or remove its fuse from the fuse block. This will prevent the fan from starting up suddenly and causing physical injury. On many General Motors vehicles, the mass airflow sensor will be located in the air duct between the air cleaner and throttle body. Once the mass airflow sensor has been found, remove the harness connector. Note how it plugs into the sensor. This is important for correct installation of the new sensor. Inspect the harness connector for cracks in the wires or corrosion on the connector. If found, repair any broken wires and clean any corrosion from the terminals. Loosen the clamps securing the mass airflow sensor in the air duct, located between the air cleaner and throttle body, and move the clamps down the air duct hose. Remove any brackets or other mounting hardware as necessary. Separate the mass airflow sensor from the air ducts and remove the sensor from the vehicle. Save any mass airflow sensor to air duct seals if so equipped. Compare the old sensor to the new sensor to be sure of correct replacement. With the sensor removed, you can inspect the honeycomb for damage. If the honeycomb is scratched or damaged, a new sensor must be installed. Before installing the new sensor, inspect the air ducts for damage or possible restrictions. Replace the air ducting if damage is noticed. Reinstall any sensor to air duct seals on the new sensor. Position the new sensor into the air ducts, making sure the airflow directional arrow on the sensor is pointing towards the throttle body. Move the clamps to the ends of the new sensor and tighten them. Check to be sure the sensor to air cleaner connections are airtight or the sensor will not work properly. Carefully reconnect the harness connector lead into the new mass airflow sensor. Remove the air cleaner cover and inspect the air filter. If the filter is dirty, wet, or clogged, replace the air filter with a new one. Reinstall the air cleaner cover. Reconnect the electric fan connector or reinstall the fuse if earlier removed. On many late model General Motors vehicles, the mass airflow sensor will be attached to the throttle body itself. Just as earlier, turn off all interior electrical accessories and turn off the ignition key. Unclip and disconnect the harness connector. A small screwdriver may be useful to release the clip. Inspect the harness connector for cracks in the wires or corrosion in the connector. If found, repair any broken wires and clean any corrosion from the terminals. Remove and save the mounting screws. Match the old and new sensors to be sure of correct replacement. Install the new sensor and snug up the mounting screws, being careful not to over-tighten. Reconnect the harness connector onto the new sensor. Make certain it is fully seated in the sensor. Start the vehicle and allow it to idle until fully warm to verify correct mass airflow sensor operation. If the service engine soon or check engine light is lit on the dash, or the engine stalls or runs rough, turn the engine off and inspect the harness connector plug for correct installation.
Let's review how easy it is to replace a mass airflow sensor. First, turn off all the electrical accessories, including the ignition switch. Disconnect the electric fan connector or fuse. Locate the mass airflow sensor. Disconnect the mass airflow sensor electrical lead. Inspect the electrical lead for damage or corrosion. Remove the mass airflow sensor from the air duct system. Inspect the air ducts for damage and obstructions. Install the new sensor into the air ducts. Reconnect the electrical lead to the sensor and reconnect any other connections or fuses removed earlier. Inspect the air filter and replace it if necessary.